Hi all, this is Asma. Today we will have a look at an example for modulation and multiple access techniques. For this example, the table below shows the spectrum allocation and absolute radio frequency channel number ARFCN calculator for GSM system. What we need to do is to determine the uplink and downlink frequency followed by the duplex spacing for two GSM bands, which are the eGSM and DCS 1800. Okay, so what we need to determine is the uplink and downlink frequency for eGSM and DCS 1800. So if we look at the table is considered a calculator, okay, because all the formulas are given. Okay, so if we look at here for different GSM bands with different ARFCN, which is denoted N, we have different formula. Okay, so all the constant are already given. Okay, and then for the frequency of the uplink as well as the frequency of the downlink. So what is ARFCN? For any given channel, okay, with a specific bandwidth, they are further divided into subcarriers, okay, with its own bandwidth. Okay, so if we look at this channel in the frequency domain, okay, we will have the uplink frequency, for example, ranges from A to B, and we also have a range for the downlink frequency, let's say from C to D. So each of the uplink and downlink has a range, and then the spacings between A to C is what we call the duplex spacing. Duplex spacing. Okay, that is why in the equation, okay, we have this formula for uplink equation, and then for downlink we have the frequency of the uplink plus a certain number. So this certain number is actually the duplex spacing. Okay, so for the first example, eGSM, let's say the N that we choose, okay, in between this range, the N that we choose is 1000. So we apply the 1000 here, okay, and then we will get the uplink frequency as 885.2 megahertz. Okay, and if we apply this inside this equation, okay, we will get 930.2 megahertz as the downlink frequency. So the duplex spacing is obvious, it is actually 45 megahertz. For DCS 1800, let's say we choose 800 as N, then the resulting uplink frequency will be 1767.8 megahertz, while the downlink is 1862 megahertz with a duplex spacing equal to 95 megahertz. So here's just a recall. What is ARFCN? It is actually the absolute radio frequency channel number. It identifies two separate radio carriers, one for the uplink and one for downlink in GSM frequency. So the derivative of ARFCN is the UARFCN or Ultra ARFCN. This is for the standard UMTS technology. And then for the LTE, we have E-Ultra ARFCN. So we call it as EARFCN. So for UARFCN and EARFCN, they have different formula. So for example, for UARFCN, the N for the uplink is equal to 5 times the frequency of the uplink minus an offset frequency of uplink, and then similarly for the downlink it is the same. Okay, so what we need to do here is actually to identify the offset frequencies from 3GPP specifications. Okay, but of course in the exam these numbers will be given to you. Once you have that, and then you identify the working uplink or downlink frequency, then you will get your ARFCN. Or the other way around, if you have the ARFCN, then you can determine your frequency of uplink and downlink. So for E ultra, we have different formula. Okay, so for example, here is the frequency which is given here. Okay, and it is equal to the frequency downlink, the lower frequency in the range, plus 0.1 times the ARFCN, okay, minus the ARFCN offset. Okay, again, this number is given in the specification. So normally what we do is actually either we apply the formula or we use directly UARFCN or EARFCN calculator. So for example here, we have an example for a frequency equal to 2115. Okay, the calculator will determine, okay, the UARFCN and the downlink frequency as well as uplink frequency. So for example, for this specific example, it identifies the frequency of 2115 belongs to 3 possible bands. Okay, 3 UMTS bands. The first one is band 1, band 4, and band 10. Okay, so for these different bands, the UARFCN might be 10,575 or 1,550 or 3,125. Okay, and then you have this UARFCN as well as the uplink frequency. So if you look at the result, you know that based on this calculator, what they took as the number is actually the downlink frequency. Okay, so we start with this, and from this we apply the formula, and then we get the ARFCN, and from that we also get the uplink frequency. Okay, and then there's another example for the 4G LTE frequency calculator. We put the either we put the EARFCN, and then we will have the results, or we can also choose a frequency from EARFCN and then come up with other results. It's just a matter of deciding on one input that we have and then determine the rest.